Every previous wave of automation hit the same people: factory workers, assembly lines, warehouse floors. This one is different. The workers most exposed to AI right now are more educated, higher paid, and more likely to be women than any group automation has ever targeted before. That is not a prediction. That is what the data says today. In March 2026, Anthropic, the company that builds Claude, one of the most advanced AI systems on the planet, published something unusual. Instead of guessing which jobs AI might replace someday, they measured which jobs it's already replacing right now. They used real usage data from their own product. Not surveys, not projections. Actual work being done by AI, tracked across 800 occupations. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly which jobs sit at the top of that list, why the people most at risk aren't who you'd expect, and what the early warning signs look like if your industry is next. For decades, the story of automation followed a pattern. Machines replaced physical labor, robots welded car frames, self-checkout kiosks replaced cashiers, algorithms sorted packages in warehouses, and every time the advice was the same: go to university, get a degree, work with your brain instead of your hands. Knowledge work was supposed to be the safe zone. In 2022, that advice still held up. White-collar unemployment was low. Tech companies were hiring aggressively. A computer science degree was practically a guaranteed salary. Financial analysts, marketing professionals, legal researchers, these were careers people chose specifically because they seemed impossible to automate. Then, in November 2022, chatgpt launched. And within 2 years, the companies building the AI started asking a question nobody in a corner office wanted to hear. What if the safe jobs were actually the exposed ones? Anthropic's researchers, Maxim Massenkoff and Peter McCrory, built a new metric. They called it observed exposure, not what AI could theoretically do, what it's actually doing right now in real workplaces. The results were striking. Computer programmers topped the list at 74.5% observed exposure, meaning 3/4 of the tasks a programmer does are already being performed by AI in some professional setting today. Customer service representatives came next at 70.1%. Then data entry workers at 67.1%. Market research analysts. Medical record specialists. Sales representatives. Here's where it gets uncomfortable. The theoretical capability numbers are even higher. For computer and maths occupations, AI can theoretically handle 94% of tasks. For business and finance, 94%. For management roles, 91%. For legal work, 89%. The gap between what AI can do and what it's currently doing sits at 50 to 65 percentage points across every major job category. That gap isn't safety, it's a lag. It's the time it takes for companies to integrate the technology, rewrite their workflows, and make the decision to act. But that decision is already being made. Separately, researchers at GovAI and the Brookings Institution looked at the same problem from the other direction. They measured 350 occupations and found that 37.1 million American workers sit in the top quartile of AI exposure. That's not a niche, that's roughly 1 in 4 workers. So what happened to the old assumption that the educated, the well-paid, the degree holders were protected? It turned out to be wrong. Anthropic's data showed that the most AI-exposed workers are 16 percentage points more likely to be female, earn 47% more on average, and are nearly 4 times as likely to hold a graduate degree compared to the least exposed group. This is not your grandfather's automation story. The assembly line is fine. The corner office is in the red zone. The Anthropic researchers were careful about one thing. They found no systematic increase in unemployment for highly exposed workers. Not yet. The jobs haven't disappeared, but something else is happening, something quieter. The entry-level pipeline is closing. Workers aged 22 to 25 trying to enter AI-exposed fields are finding jobs 14% less often than their peers in non-exposed occupations. That number comes straight from the Anthropic data. Before ChatGPT, the two groups tracked each other closely. From 2024 onwards, they diverge. Young people trying to enter programming, marketing, data analysis, customer service, they're hitting a wall that didn't exist 3 years ago. Companies aren't firing their senior staff. They're just not hiring replacements at the bottom. AI fills the gap. The junior developer role that used to require 3 people now requires 1 person and a subscription. And then there are the 6.1 million workers that the Brookings study flagged as being in the worst possible position. High exposure to AI, low capacity to adapt, limited savings, narrow skill sets. Few local job opportunities, 86% of them are women. Most of them work in clerical and administrative roles. Office clerks, secretaries, receptionists, payroll staff. Allison Elias, a professor at the University of Virginia who studies past technology shifts, put it plainly. These workers won't have much say in how AI is used around them, and their options for moving to something else are limited. So, what does this actually mean for you? If you work on a screen with a keyboard, making decisions that follow some kind of pattern, you're in the exposure zone. That includes programming, financial analysis, marketing, legal research, customer support, data processing, and most forms of administrative work. That doesn't mean you'll lose your job tomorrow. The Anthropic researchers themselves stress the need for humility here. Previous predictions about automation wiping out bank tellers, radiologists, and secretaries all turned out to be overstated. Jed Kolko at the Peterson Institute put it simply: all the important questions about AI's effect on the labor market are still unanswered. But here's what we do know. The gap between what AI can do and what it is doing is closing. Not all at once, but steadily. AI exposure scores are climbing roughly 9% per year. The Brookings data shows that 70% of exposed workers, about 26.5 million people, are well positioned to adapt. They have savings, skills that transfer, and access to strong job markets. The other 30% don't, and nobody is talking to them yet. 77% of Gen Z workers now say it's important that their future job is hard to automate. Trades like plumbing, carpentry, and electrical work are seeing a surge of interest from a generation that watched their older siblings compete with chatbots for entry-level desk jobs. The labor market isn't breaking, but it is bending. And the bend started at the top, not the bottom. If you want to see what happens when a company actually acts on this data, when a CEO reads these numbers and fires 40% of the workforce in a single day, that story is next. It's the block video. Link is on screen now. Subscribe if you want to understand what's coming before it arrives.